Be earnest also has an opposite. So tonight, because you have a reason for it, a solid reason for it, an authentic reason for it, you are all to be happy and cheerful and light. Well, one or two of you smile. With effort. You're so heavy. How can you carry yourself around all day? So I'll tell you a light little story, and then we'll get down to business. Remember I came to your house yesterday, Joan, in the afternoon, 3 or 4, something like that. And I was coming down Wyoming Street from the center of town toward here, toward Joan's house, and I came to the Boulevard stop. And I stopped there for a second, and right in front of me, cars were coming from down the hill. One car came in front of me, went on past. Another car went right in front of me, went on past. A third car went in front of me. What's going on here? The third car was a horse. It was a horse that got away, no rider or anything, no saddle. That horse was trotting with absolute perfect confidence behind the second car that went. And I said to myself, very funny, but I've got to get a lesson from this. What on earth can I get? I finally got the lesson, which is this: we only notice the unexpected. Can you imagine you're sitting there kind of, you're not paying attention. One car goes by, second car, a horse. That's what happened. And indeed, we do only notice the usual. So tonight, we're going to have an exercise that will help us to notice the unusual. That is, the states that are always in us, but which we rarely witness because we're asleep. What we're going to do is, first of all, have Joan take the slip of paper I gave her. Do you have it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And read the top line in capitals there, please. But before you do, just a bit more introduction. Tonight, rather than a straight talk, we're going to have a gigantic full-time inner exercise for all of us. And let me tell you, you'll never be given an exercise of more daily practical value to you if you will force yourself to do it. If you will force yourself to do it. You can't advise yourself. You can't gently suggest. You have to go against your inertia, your laziness, and do the lesson. Read the top line, please, Joan.
Will it be better?
Oh, anywhere. Sure. Get a chair if you want up there.
It's going to be red and then...
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Off and on, see?
You want a chair, Figure?
I think I'll do it from here. I'll just speak loudly. What is my state right now?
There's the question. Write it down if you want. What is my state right now? And when you have it written down, look up, please, so I'll know you're through writing. All right. The question was, what is my state right now? Look and see. Can you tell right now as you're sitting here what your inner condition is? What's it like? Can you look at it? What was it like 5 minutes ago? An hour ago? At noon today, what was your state like? When you woke up this morning, how did you get out of bed? What mood, state, condition were you in inwardly? Can you remember at all what your state was? Sometimes around the day. All right. The exercise is this. To go through the day and the night, repeatedly interrupting whatever state we're in, to simply ask yourself that question: what state am I in right now? What state am I in right now? You can phrase it any little small way you want, but you get the idea. And you will be astonished at the end of the day, if you even record part of them, how many varied, contradictory, negative, passive, whatever conditions you find yourself in. Now you understand what you're to do with them? Absolutely nothing. You're not to do a thing with the state that you see in yourself. You're to see it and let it go, just as the passive observer, looking at it and letting it go, not doing a thing with it. All right, Joan, we're going to have some examples, and you're going to have to find your own as you watch yourself throughout the day. Interrupt yourself, and you do it during this class, during the break, and afterward, and tonight before you go to bed. What state am I in right now? Read the first example, Joan.
1. Practical everyday thought.
All right. You might be in practical everyday thought when the boss asks you to type that letter, or you decide to mow the lawn, or bake the cake. This is right practical thought, isn't it? There's no negativity in it. You're simply doing something to proceed with the functions of everyday life, something that gets us through on the everyday level. So, you might observe yourself, as one example, I was just thinking about how to add up this list of figures in order to figure out my bills for the month. You have seen the state you're in at that moment. Next one, Joan, please.
2. Practical spiritual thought.
Read that again, please.
Practical spiritual thought.
Practical spiritual thought. You need not read the numbers on them. It might cause some confusion, yeah. Practical spiritual thought. Does that present any problem to you? Haven't you ever sat down and just reflected, tried to understand, tried to make connections between some of the ideas that have been presented here? Just practical spiritual thought. I wonder what that means. I wonder if that could apply to me. I wonder if there's a connection between the grief I've experienced in my life and the way my mind operates. I wonder if my arguing all the time has a connection with my rejection of the truth, which I say that I want. Practical, reflective thought. We're trying to figure out the whole business and connect it with our personal life. You might observe that in yourself. Go ahead, Joe.
Feeling blamed.
Feeling blamed. How many of you feel blamed? You ever notice a very interesting thing? I've noticed it quite often over the years, and back and forth in myself and in other people. Something goes wrong. It goes wrong as little children. Someone breaks the vase and Mama comes into the room. What's our first words? I didn't do it, Billy did it, right? This little childhood habit has come with us as we grow up, and the first thing we want the boss to know, want the wife to know, the husband to know, whoever to know. I didn't do it. All because we feel that if someone bawls us out one more time, it's going to be too much. So at all costs, let's protect ourselves from being blamed. Don't you know in this work, we're doing the opposite of that. We want to see what is wrong instead of defending ourselves. And to be unjustly, innocently accused is one of the most magnificent things that could ever happen to you in life. To be unjustly accused. You were innocent of it, and you were accused. Christ hung on the cross, right? Unjustly accused by madmen. He took that. And we can hardly wait to say, that wasn't my fault. Maybe we catch ourselves trying to get out of a responsibility or defending ourselves in some way, fearing we're going to be blamed because we fear. When are you going to stop fearing the wrath of man? Any man, any woman. When are you going to stop fearing their wrath so that you submit, so that you concede, so you tremble, so you fawn? Why are you afraid of anyone? Why are you so afraid that you argue with people? Don't you know that when you argue because you're scared? This class is building real courage, a confidence so solid, so whole, that it walks right into the middle of the lion's den. And it doesn't even smile, because even that would be wasted, see? That would be dramatics, wouldn't it? I'm not afraid. When you're not afraid, you don't say I'm not afraid, right? It's when I'm afraid that I say I'm not afraid. Read the next one, Joan.
Fear of what I might do against myself.
Isn't that a good thing to catch ourselves reflecting about? Do any of you, or do any of you, ever have any kind of a fear of what your own neurosis might get you into? The trouble that you might get yourself into because you can't judge between what is right and wrong, between what is authentically good for you and what you assume is good for you? We walk right into it. Because in our present state, we haven't learned to transcend this nature that has got us into trouble all our lives. And we fight and argue to anyone who tries to drag us out of it. And at that point, by the way, truth will rest with you until you wake up. Truth won't argue with you. It will just stand silently and watch you argue with yourself. No one ever argues with God or with truth. You argue with yourself, and you know it, and you feel it, and you suffer from it. Never, never in the history of mankind has anyone ever argued with God. Not really. As an example or an illustration, you can find instances of that, certainly. But we're always arguing with ourselves. The minute we submit to truth, to God, what's there to argue about? There's no argument at all, because we're not trying to protect our ego self. Go ahead, Joan.
Wandering. Reading but not absorbing.
Have you ever read a whole page of a book without reading it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good the next time this happens to suddenly say, I see what it means to be in a daze with my mind while my eyes were mechanically going through the motions of reading a page. Wouldn't that be a good one to catch ourselves in? Next one, please.
Passive. Nothing in particular.
Sure. Sometimes when we've been very active in our mind, maybe working hard, the opposite swings over, and we're just passive. You're riding home in the bus, or sitting quietly on your porch maybe. You're not thinking of anything in particular. If you could suddenly turn your attention back to yourself, you would see, very simply, you're in a passive mood. Maybe you're quietly watching that cat walk across the lawn. Passive and quiet. That's part of our state. Go ahead.
Relaxed. Perhaps being entertained.
Right. You remember you've been advised before, you're watching that exciting television show, but because you want to wake up, and that's a burning passion with you, right in the middle of that man winning the 100-yard dash in the Olympics, or the cowboy rescuing the maiden, right in the middle of that very emotional scene, you suddenly become aware that you were sitting there watching a television show. I am being entertained at the moment, and that's just fine. But know that you're being entertained instead of being so identified with that screen there that your emotions go on automatically, and you laugh and you cry and you get scared when the villain seems to be winning. Even your body is speaking and reacting to the scene there. Break it off. Break it off. Don't be identified with it. But the main point being, sometimes we need entertainment. Be aware of that state.
Confused.
Does that need comment? If we can turn our attention back and see that we're in a confused state. And then, by the way, we can do something intelligent, which is to not fight the confusion, not go into despair over the confusion, not to wail, why am I so confused, and where can I find help, or what can I do about it, or does this have to persist? Don't you understand when you wail over your confusion that that is confusion? Who is wailing over the confusion? Another confused part, which is a conspiracy to keep confusion going because you love your wailing. You love your tears. Your precious conflicting emotions are very valuable to you, and so you keep it going by saying, won't I ever get this in this class? How will I ever understand this? I sense there's something right about it. So you're keeping your own confusion going. Do you understand that truth is pure, that it itself can never be confused about anything? Therefore, who is confused? Confusion is the result of us trying to be who we are in illusion and not succeeding because we can't succeed. Luck. We don't want the answer. I want my answer, and you want your answer. And you want your answer. There's the error. There's the confusion. I want my answer to my prayer, not God's answer. So I keep the confusion going, deceiving myself into thinking that I'm sincere, and I'm lying. I'd rather be a self-deceiving liar than to give in to truth that could lift me above it. I tell you what, the next time you're confused, I will give you one simple instruction. And what a blow against your confusion it will be. You will sit back, aside, the passive spectator, and you watch the confusion churning in your own mind, and you will say to it, I am not going to be afraid of you 1 second longer. And when it tries to bluff you and take you over, I said I'm not going to be bluffed, frightened by you, intimidated by you 1 second longer. Now get it. Get tough. You, the right part of you, which is a right thing to say, that is strong. That one strong right declaration is stronger than every confusion that has ever existed in the world since man began, all put together. One little candle of light, to illustrate it, will stand out apart from the darkness of the entire world. Your trouble is you submit. The minute darkness sees you're afraid of it, it's got you, and it laughs at you, and it keeps you, and it's your fault. Because you refuse to let God do for you what you, on your level of intellect, cannot do for yourself. The confusion is on the level of intellect. You refuse to leave the level of intellect and let God do it for you, which he will do every time. And one little tiny part of God is you saying to confusion, I am not going to be scared of you anymore. You can rage and you can wail if you want. I'm not going to join you, period. I'm serious. Do you know how serious we are now? You'd better be serious. It's your life. You stop being afraid of your own confusion. And you stop allying yourself with it. Truth is clarity. Ally yourself with truth, and you watch and see how your mind and your feelings and your life begins to clear itself, so that you don't do dumb things business-wise, socialize, etc.-wise. Read the next one, Joan, when you can.
Acting. Acting.
If you'll observe yourself very carefully during the break and after the meeting, you'll be able to detect the truth of a statement that has been made in this class many times, that all of us are superb actors and actresses. Playing to the audience, whether the audience be one person out there or 20 persons out there, or the audience in here. We like to please our own self-made audience, made up of our vanities and conceits and ideas that we can really give a snappy reply or give a reply loaded with wisdom. Can we get off stage and can we start that by suddenly interrupting ourselves and asking, what is my state right now? I saw I was acting because I was afraid of that person, that man who called at the door or whoever, and I put on this. It wasn't a big act in particular, it was a small one. It was a smiling act. I was acting very pleasantly, and I didn't really feel pleasant at all. In fact, I felt uncomfortable putting on my pleasant smile and manner. And I knew I was divided and hypocritical, but it took me over. But I see what I can do. Right in the middle of talking with that man who for some reason I don't understand it, maybe because he's physically big or well-dressed, or he has a hard look on his face and he looks like my father. I'm not sure why. But if I can catch myself playing a role, a particular kind of role, asking his opinion about, I don't give 2 cents for his opinion, but I sense he wants me to ask it, so why do I do such dumb things? What on earth is the matter with my brain? Okay, I can begin to correct it by right in the middle of getting ready to ask that domineering man a question, what is my state right now? And stop right in the middle of asking him that question. Regardless of my own fear of the, get this, of the, quote, consequences of him being disappointed in me for not playing the role he expected me to play. Dear sir or madam, I'm not going to play the role anymore. I told you that. I've crossed the river. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going back. If I stumble, I'll just get up and start all over again. Let's get off the stage. Go ahead, John.
False enthusiasm.
False enthusiasm. Without exception, each one of you in this room expresses false enthusiasm over things that bore you. But is it expected of you by other people? You want to please them? Or you got into a habit of doing a certain thing that maybe used to give you pleasure or used to be a duty or something, and so you feel guilty or you feel uncomfortable over simply breaking off the mechanical habit. Turn your attention back on yourself and ask, read that one again, Joan. Read the same one again.
False enthusiasm.
False enthusiasm. Try to catch yourself being bubbly because it's expected of you, but you don't really feel it. Oh, what energy you will save in small ones. Just a minute, Jim, please. And little tiny small ones. Just watch the small one. Someone says, you know, my favorite actor is John Wayne. And you say, oh, me too. I saw that last picture. That's a little I jumping in, wanting to join the drama. False enthusiasm. Because we wanted to feel the excitement. Well, did you have a question, Jim?
Yeah.
Let's finish the list first, please. Give me the number, Joan.
The number, the word.
Next number.
Number is, okay, arguing.
What's the number of it?
11.
11.
Arguing.
Arguing. Okay. Have you ever turned your attention back on yourself and caught yourself arguing with yourself? Right? Pretty dumb argument, huh? Read 12, please.
Indignant.
Indignant. We haven't used that word very much. Watch yourself being indignant that you weren't treated the way you expected to be the way your Royal Highness should be treated. Indignation. It's kind of a small one and slips by us real fast, doesn't it? Next, please.
Talking to oneself.
How many of you enjoy... I don't think I need to comment much on that one. What's the next? 13?
14.
14.
Listening to another person talk.
Listening to another person talk. Okay, that's also another state we could simply find ourselves in. When you're listening to another person talk, can you simply watch the state you're in, what your reactions are? What state am I in right now when I'm listening to you discuss something? What? Am I impatient, wanting you to stop so that I can jump in with my brilliant comment? Or am I saying, oh, I've heard that 10 times before? Or is he saying something and I'm listening very carefully because my self-interest is involved? He just said that Rudy's bringing in a couple dozen donuts and I listen carefully because I want a donut. What is my state right now while I'm listening to you talk? Next, please.
Defensive.
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 No comment needed on that one. Just look and see where we're being defensive. Next, please.
Lying.
Is that the last one? Okay. All through the day, catch yourself. I'll catch myself. Turning the arrow back and saying, what am I lying about now? Do you know that you are aware, are you not, that we can lie with our physical bodies? Pretending to be enthusiastic like that when we're not? Or the facial expression again? What am I lying about now which keeps me in division, which keeps me uncomfortable? We'll continue with this after a break, then we'll have your comment, Jim, okay? Let's take a break. How can you have a sense of humor when you take yourself seriously? You think about it. Who are you taking so seriously? You're taking a delusion seriously, and it ruins a natural, proper sense of humor. Life is too serious to laugh. It is serious, wrongly serious, because your illusions, your self-centeredness, or mine, make it so. You want to walk lightly? You want to walk lightly in this heavy world? See these facts. Then see if you're concerned with anything more but to make money, to keep bread on the table and a roof over your head. Have friends if you want. Have a wife if you want or don't want. Husband if you want or don't want. Family if you want or don't want. Then you'll be able to do what you want to do instead of what your neurosis dictates. You are dominated presently by your own neurosis. This is your slave master. And you obey it without question. Happy, happy days. When are you going to revolt? When are you going to say to your confusion, you are not going to scare me one day longer? And if I fail and you scare me tomorrow, I'm going to come right back and refuse to let you repeat it the day after. You fail in that, you come back and say it again. You fail 10 times, 50 times, 500 times, you come right back again. Persistence is one of the greatest powers you have for changing your internal state. You think about the word persistence and add it to your weaponry. I'll tell you something very astonishing. Then we'll have Jim's question, if he remembered it, and an open comment. Listen to this. When you give proper, full, right, whole attention to a negative state, it disappears. You cannot give attention to a negativity, right full attention, and have it continue. Now look, I know what you're thinking. You say, well, I saw my anger yesterday. You caught one fleeting little glimpse of it, and then it took you over, and you ceased to see it. You saw it afterward. How long afterward? 10 minutes? A day? A week? You saw it afterward? Don't you know what right attention is? We can give a synonym for it. Right attention is pure seeing, pure light. And in that light, that impudent feeling that we had, that feeling sorry for ourselves that we had, cannot exist. They can't exist together. It's one or the other. I'm very attentive to myself. You're very attentive. Do it now. Be fully attentive to your inner state right now. See what it is. It may not be particularly negative now. It may be passive. Remember, we covered some examples of that. When you're purely attentive to your state, you can't be negative. I know right now that I am not negative. In a very quiet state that's hard to describe because there's nothing there to describe. There's just something there. But it's not acting wrongly. It's not injuring me. It's not trying to prove anything. And it's expressing itself physically through the gesture that I just did like that. And my voice. If you want to destroy the negative state, stand aside, be attentive to it, and watch at first how it weakens itself, which is the toothpick in front of the truck rolling downhill. Negativities of all kinds, wrong feelings exist because of inattention to them. Inattention to them consists of identification with them. I am that state, and I love it. I love to complain. I love to have a cause, some stupid social cause. Without that cause, I'd have to slow down and come to the end of myself. And that's the last thing I want to do. I want to be me if it kills me, and it will. As an exercise, because you cannot be fully attentive right now, you watch your state, be attentive to it, and then as an exercise, slow it down. Slow it down. You're angry about something, slow it down. And one way to do that is to relax the physical body. You watch what a jolt that gives you. You're real mad, you're angry, you're indignant, you deliberately relax the jaw and you watch the jolt it gives you, because your physical is going in opposition to the emotional, isn't it? The two are not harmonious anymore. And that jolt makes you conscious that you were angry, that you were in a state of cruelty or whatever. You've given it a jolt. Okay? All right, Jim, go ahead, please.
In the
nice and loud, please.
question of like false enthusiasm and lying, I'm trying to clarify in my mind the thought of acting a part which you don't feel.
Yeah.
Is that a form of escapism?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Do you know, I'll tell you.
Now,
go ahead. All right.
because you see, in spelling and conditioning, say, okay, act enthusiastic, you know what I mean, if you don't feel it,
Wow.
and then there's a contradiction, but then you see in persistence, doesn't contradict that because you must give your attention in persisting, not running from it. Is that correct?
Say that again, Jim. I lost you.
In persistence.
Okay. Persistence.
You're not bringing in a different part that you don't feel. You're trying to persist in seeing your conditioning.
Okay. Oh, yes, yes.
Now there's the there's a confusion that I guess that
The
whole conditioning is trying to change a situation.
No. The seeing is the beginning of light. The seeing of it, and you'll get a jolt. You know. You'll understand. Have you ever been told by someone? Let me pull an example out of the air. My, but you're nervous. What are you so nervous? You didn't know you were nervous, did you?
No.
Because you were walking in your sleep, getting the book down, and someone says, what are you so nervous about? And you may even resent, maybe, we have different, resent that person telling, why? Because he is telling you that you're unaware. Oh, I was asleep. And we resent him telling us that we're unaware because we have images that we know. I know when I'm nervous, but we don't. This business of false enthusiasm alone could be tracked down and expanded and see how much we're involved in it because we think it's expected of us, for example. And also because we want to feel as if we're doing something logical, purposeful, worthwhile with our lives. To ally ourselves with a cause, any cause, a little one, even a good cause. You understand, do you not, that you can do good things for a bad reason?
Yeah.
Understand? You can give a whole day of work to the charity organization, and on its level, it's good to help those little kids, train them to add figures or whatever you're doing, help those little kids doing down at the orphanage. Good on that level. You're doing it for an egotistical reason, and you are destroying those children in a way which you'll never see until you see you're doing it to give yourself a purpose and watch how you want somebody to know about it.
Yeah.
I go down to that orphanage every day at 8 o'clock and work till noon to help. Someone's got to help those little kids, You're evading your own salvation. Right? False enthusiasm is in there. Acting is in there. Contradiction is in there. Because right at 10 o'clock, when you're right involved in helping those little kids, the vague, fleeting thought comes through your mind, oh, I wish I was out back home making those little baskets I like to make. A right hobby, something you like to do, say, something good for you. That's where you express yourself. You make baskets, color them, and that's fun, that's good. You want to do what you want to do to make these baskets, but I can't do that because God said help little children, and you resent the whole moral mess because you want to be doing what you want to do, but you've got to be good. You're driving yourself nuts, right? Okay, let's not drive ourselves nuts anymore. You're doing far more, and you know it, for those little kids at the orphanage if you stay home and build little baskets, because you are becoming a self-integrated human being, which will reflect itself back to that orphanage 10,000 miles away. Just a little bit of reflection. But if you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it, the reflection would grow, and it isn't going to happen. Don't expect it to. Isn't it strange how afraid we are to do what is really right? Not only for me, but for using. Because we don't know what is really right. We think it's good works. Comments, questions? Yes.
Part of the answer to Jim's question is that the perseverance in the work is perseverance to dismantle. That it is perseverance to get off stage, to stop playing the role, to let the thing go, just to drop it in mid-course, so that it's not perseverance in the sense of the world is to perpetuate what I have called myself. This kind of perseverance is exactly the opposite. It's an unwinding as distinguished from a winding up. Just the effort to empty as distinguished from the effort to keep full.
Correct. Correct. I was thinking today of an illustration. I've been waiting tonight for a way to bring it in, but it does connect with everything we're talking about, so I'll bring it in. Just simply an example of what we're talking about. Self-division, how the outer is different from the inner. I was at a long time ago, when I lived in Los Angeles, I was at a live television broadcast studio where a TV show originated. And I was seated in the audience, and the show was on below us there with cameras from the stage and the audience out here. And the master of ceremonies of this particular, I think, game show or something like that, call it a game show, was a very famous man whose name you would recognize, possibly, if I was to mention it. Very famous for his dynamic personality, his broad smile, his happiness running around the stage there. And of course, that's the way he was. When he came in, you know, they give him the music, and here's the host, and he runs on stage. Usually that makes it more dramatic than if you slouch in here. And the music flares up. So old Happy Jack jumps around the stage for a while. And then they came to an intermission in the show. And he came over. He also was sort of in charge of the audience, telling them what to do, where to go and all that. And his manner changed. He said, now if you go out during the intermission, you will not be allowed back in. His mask has dropped a little bit. It'll drop more in a minute when I get to it. Just a little bit. He was telling us, if you go out during the intermission, you can't come back in. The reason being, of course, you know how the camera pans on the audience, and they want that room full. The last thing they want is empty seats or a half-filled house or anything. Boy, this is the greatest show on earth. Everybody wants, you know, it's part of the commercialism of it. So very sternly he said, if any of you go out now, you can't come back in. So a couple minutes later, 2 or 3 people got up and walked out. And this man was standing, and he turned and he walked them, looked at them, and you never saw the difference, such a difference in your life between Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, of this very happy, smiling face. His whole complete, in a little incident like this, his mask dropped, and you saw a scowling, angry, sour face, sneering. He was actually sneering at the people who, first of all, walked out, and secondly, who didn't obey his instructions to stay there to keep the audience filled up. This is the world, the happy exterior, who sends people to war, who gets people involved in endless problems, health problems. This is the world. All right, what masks do we have that we're willing to turn our attention back on ourselves and say, how am I behaving in false pleasantness right now? To slow down. You're the boss, Leila. Write down a reminder sentence, please, something we haven't discussed for some time that you can remind yourself of. Only my imaginary world can collapse, and the sooner the better. Only my imaginary world can collapse, and the sooner the better. Only my imaginary world can collapse, and the sooner the better. And if you don't understand that after the break, you might want to ask questions about it. Let me review what we covered last night, and which we're going to continue with this morning, which was an exercise in going through the day and night, simply interrupting ourselves as often as possible to ask ourselves, what is my state right now? To simply see whatever condition, emotional mood, passive state, thought, what condition am I in right now? in order to interrupt it, to put an end to the tyranny of mechanical states which keep us separated from who we really are. Because we identify with these states and say I to them without knowing that we do that. I am angry. If you did not say I am angry, you couldn't be angry. You always say I am angry, whether you're aware of it or not. I am depressed. If you didn't say I am depressed, you couldn't be. So we're captured really by our unconsciousness, by the repetition of calling ourselves this or that state. In one sense, we are that state, because that's all we are at the time. You are depressed, but it's not really you who's depressed at all, but a continuing of the idea, I am depressed, connected with emotions, because we love that state. So we're going to continue this morning with some examples, which I'm going to have Joan read in a minute. But first, let me ask Leland first, and then I'll ask the rest of you. Leland, you were in the kitchen when I came here this morning. I was the first one here, and the whole atmosphere was very quiet. You were in the kitchen working with something. What was your mood when you and I were alone, speechless between each other in the room this morning?
In the kitchen.
Yeah.
Self-observant. One of the things that you've said to us is that for a person to be genuinely awake, alert, there's no false agitation, no sense that something must be going on, so that we're just naturally at ease with whatever's going on or whoever happens to be there. Now, obviously you happen to be a very special person in my personal life, and so I must watch to see that there's nothing false or artificial that is going on from me toward you.
Right.
And so that is what was happening. That was my state, to observe.
Right.
That there actually was a little something there that wasn't right, but just observing it.
Mm-hmm. Right. We find it so uncomfortable to be with the silence, don't we? Now, if you and I had not been working, I was working too, of course. We were both observing, watching things going. If either one of us had not been working quite as alertly as we perhaps were, you could have said something to me, I could have said something to you in order to break the silence. In other words, to interject an artificial atmosphere in it so as to hide from our discomfort of nothing being said. We both endured the silence, did we not? So now we have a little bit more than we had we broken it in order to run away from the discomfort, if it indeed was there. All right, you were given instructions to see what your state was at any given moment between last night and this morning. Who will volunteer to tell us that you actually did the exercise and what was the result of it? Rudy.
Well, this morning I was watching how, well, first I was reluctant to get out of bed and wondering what time it was. But one thing that I was noticing, or I'm not sure, how the body or thoughts were trying to take over, and each one of them saying, I am you, you know.
That's pretty good. The thought trying to tell you, I am you. The exercise was to catch yourself and say, what is my state right now? Don't you underestimate this exercise. You value it. You'll see why later on if you don't see it now. Larry.
Driving back this morning from Henderson back up to here, I saw myself in a very grumpy mood. I saw my mind say, you see the mood, now just observe it.
Okay.
I saw that while I was trying to watch a grumpy mood, for a split second, I was not grumpy. I don't have to be grumpy.
See how that connects with the sentence you were given? Grumpiness is an artificial world, and the sooner it collapses, it's not necessary. It's an imposition on us. Do you ever consider it that way? Just a comment on Larry's comment, that we are being imposed upon by darkness because we don't realize that our real nature is light. We're deceived by darkness because we fail to understand, comprehend, that our authentic nature is light. And when we realize that our authentic nature is light, can there be any boasting in that state at all? Can we compare, for example, with another, even if we, look, we've actually understood that our real nature is light. Can we have any superiority to anyone else who we know is still struggling in the dark? We have that much light. Can that ever boast? Can it ever be self-righteous? Can light ever be self-righteous? Any other volunteers? Sarah.
I saw at one point this morning I was running late, and I could see that I was very tense, very nervous about this. And then a little voice set in, one part of me blaming the other part for not taking care of this thing yesterday, and saying, well, if you'd taken care of this yesterday, you wouldn't be running late today.
If you're late, whatever you do now, and this is a work project, don't you run a signal or exceed the speed limit and get a ticket. That would be breaking a work rule in itself, wouldn't it? Does that mean that you're not driving consciously, which means including obeying the traffic laws? Better be late, and if you're 15 minutes late, when you slam that car door, you watch the mood, because the crisis is coming, and you've been bawled out for being late, right? You open the door, you walk in there consciously expecting the storm, or you might be surprised that nothing will be said. That'll really shock you, won't it? You want to be the center of attention or being bawled out, you don't get it. Okay. Who else?
To watch myself last night after the meeting, as I wanted to enter my house, I was trying to put on a cheerful act.
Why?
I don't know. I have always been doing things, just, you know, as you spoke last night of being an actress and actor, that's how we approach others, to make them believe we're happy, cheerful, artificial, very artificial.
Right. Also, do you realize there's a certain reflection back on ourselves? When we're cheerful in front of other people, we're trying to convince ourselves that this is the state. Not only them, but ourselves that this is the state, which is a form of self-deception, and you will feel a pain of the pretense. If you're very observant, you'll feel the, I wish I could get off the stage sort of feeling, right? All we have to do to get off the stage is to walk off it. Nothing real prevents us from walking off stage right now. Nothing real. Only our delusions that we have to maintain the identity of that, whatever role we're playing out on the stage for the theater of life. That we're nice. Whatever. Any other examples? Yes, Benny.
I didn't realize this was a project, but I was self-observing as I came. And I always go through that bit when I approach the house of what am I going to do when I face this group? What am I going to say? Going through all this.
Right.
And as I got out today, I kept watching myself as I walked across the street, approached the group.
Right.
And then I saw you by yourself there after I had said good morning to the other group. And this little thing in the back was saying, well, here you've got you've got Vernon alone, why don't you say something interesting? And then the other voice says, look, you have nothing to say, but just say good morning and walk by.
Yes.
As I entered the door after I had done that, I felt an uneasiness that I...
Yes. You and I were also working, Benny. I saw you approach, I saw you come up, and for my part, I said to myself, of course, I'm not going to say a thing to Benny. I'm going to, if he wants to say something, I'll respond. That's fine. Yeah. Good morning again, or whatever. But no artificial,
That's right.
officiality. So I watched you turn the corner. You turned your head down just a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And went on in. We're both working. That's the main thing. That's all that counts. Any other examples before we go on? All right. We're going to continue. Joan is going to read out loud some more simple examples of how states we might catch ourselves in. Go ahead, Joan.
First one is wishing company would leave.
All right, the next time you have company, I knew that'd get a laugh, because we all do it, don't we? That nice company that comes over, and dinner's over, and you get a little tired of them, and they get tired of you maybe, but they don't even know how to leave. You know the best way to leave? Get up and leave. So, next time we have company, don't feel guilty about it, simply see my state. What is my state right now? My state is wishing that company would leave. And do you realize that that could be for very practical reasons? You're tired. Your social center, which we all have and which is proper, we have a social center right in this room. The social center is tired. It has played its part for a while. Now, solitude, the opposite, wants to take over, correct? So why do you condemn yourself? That's natural, right? See how if you understand the opposites, many other things become clear? You don't hate your company, you really don't. Your instinctive center of wanting now to go to the opposite and relax. You've put a lot of energy out in talking to your company. You've exhausted yourself. You want them to go home. All right, what are you going to do if they don't go home? Go into negativity over it because your instinctive center says you want to be alone? No, you're going to watch that and use that as a project in not being negative, that they don't go home. Larry, comment?
May I offer another one?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yesterday afternoon, just a little bit before time to get a shower and drive over here from where I live, I looked out my trailer. When I heard a car, I looked out and I saw a man coming to my trailer who is all right, but I didn't
Make it fast, Larry. Make it fast.
I didn't have time for his blab. I was going to be rude and lock the trailer, not answer the door. But instead I went outside, sat with him a few minutes, and finally I just said to him, I must take a shower and leave in a few minutes. He looked a bit offended. I spoke the truth to him, and that was that, and I saw a little offense on him at me stating a fact.
Well, what about you? What was your state?
What was my state? Time element involved, take a shower, drive so long over here, watching the clock. What was my state?
Nervous haste?
No. The other side. I didn't want to sit there and blab and then drive quickly over here. It's not safe on that road.
All right, hold it. All right, please, no more comments till we've exhausted the list. We'll have plenty of time for comments afterward. Let's be orderly. Go, Joan.
Imitating.
Imitating? Yes. Have you ever caught yourself imitating someone else, someone you admire, someone that makes a clever remark and you can hardly wait to get in another situation, or you can imitate their clever remark? Catch yourself in that state. That's an artificial state, isn't it? We want to make an impression. Next.
Display of sympathy.
Display of sympathy. Who displays sympathy with people because you think it's expected of you? You can be properly sympathetic, and you know the best sympathy is to not be in false sympathy, which they will detect and eat up. Next, please.
Deny with emotion.
Say that again.
Deny with emotion.
Ah, yes. We're accused of something, we deny with emotion, and we might even agree with our heads. Nod, that's right, I did make that goof. But we deny it inwardly. There's something very stubborn about us that doesn't want to admit wholly and fully that there's something wrong with this inner machinery. Go ahead.
Frozen.
Frozen. Frozen attitudes. Am I in a frozen attitude because someone said something to me? I freeze up. That is my defense against getting hurt. I freeze up as a defense against getting fully hurt against that remark you made to me. That is my state. Frozen. Go.
Carried away.
Carried away. Who has been carried away by a situation? Recklessly. You should be able to fill in a dozen examples there. Next, please.
Pleasure over revenge.
Pleasure over revenge. Are we all so spiritual that we never ever take a small feeling of pleasure in someone, an enemy, getting hurt? Whether the revenge was ours or not, they get their comeuppance, and we feel a pleasure over it? Who is getting damaged by pleasure in revenge towards someone? I get damaged. Next, please.
Looking for something to say.
Ah, isn't that good? Both Benny and I and Leland and I worked with that this morning. Looking for something to say. Why not endure in great pain the silence instead of talking mechanically? Watch your resentment at being carried away by compulsive chatter when the room goes into silence. You will say something at the same time you say it. Watch your resentment at your compulsiveness, your cowardliness of not enduring the silence, of having to say something. Now you feel a certain false relief, and you have also done the cowardly thing of forcing the other person to pick up your question or comment while you sit back and let him hurt himself with his mechanical reply. See how we hurt others to the degree we hurt ourselves? Let's endure the silence and not be afraid of it. Go.
Self-righteousness.
How many self-righteous people do we have in the room? How many of you like to brag that you don't drink? How many of you like to boast that you don't smoke? Every time you condemn someone else for a sin, look at yourself. Quote it for us, Leland. Let he who is without
Sin cast the first stone.
Let he who is without sin among you cast the first stone. Next, Joan.
Trying to appear daring.
Trying to appear daring. What does that mean to you? Apparently nothing. Larry? Bluff is good. Have any of you... No, let's see. Dorothy? Go ahead.
No, liking to be outrageous.
Liking to be outrageous. That's pretty good. Yes. Have any of you ladies ever even dressed daringly?
Oh, yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
What are you trying to tell us about yourself when you dress daringly? That you're a daring woman, Joan?
No, but you really don't.
Are we getting too close here to embarrassment?
I do what I please. I don't care what people say about how I dress or something.
That's good. That's very good. Zena?
That I'm sexy.
That you're sexy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And can arouse sex in men, maybe?
Yeah.
And maybe make the ladies jealous over what you've got? See, you were thinking that. I said it. See how daring I was? Boasting about sin is a very good one. You remember how we boasted about that sinful thing we did years ago, maybe? Showing how daring we were to sin. Go ahead, Joan.
Wanting allies and confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting allies and confirmation. Who in your life that you are associated with you like because you know that they're as dumb as you are, therefore they will back up your original dumbness. Write down a sentence. No allies, ball bat. No allies. Who does not understand ball bat? You,
does it mean just a period? Or mean it?
You don't understand?
Does it mean this?
Joan, please.
It's an exclamation point.
What is it?
Okay, it's the ball, the baseball bat on top and the baseball underneath.
Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you.
No allies. When you're through, Joan, read the next one.
A wish to find out.
A wish to find out. Oh, that is a good state to be in, isn't it? A wish to find out. Go on.
Fear of being found out.
Fear of being found out. Come on now. What is each one of us hiding? And I'm not talking about your personal private life, which is yours and yours privately. What psychological state can we catch ourselves in so as to shock ourselves into seeing that we're hiding it from ourselves even? How many of us in this room are not as nice as we like other people to think we are? Right? How many of us are hiding hatred of someone who is nowhere near us physically. Papa, Mama, who? Children, friends, former friends, ex-husband, ex-wife. Don't identify with your dislike, hatred, contempt for other people, anyone. Don't hide that from yourself. That's disastrous, isn't it? That gnaws all day long, all life long. Next, Joan.
Guarded.
Guarded, sure. Guarded looks, guarded words, guarded manner. Some of you in this room have a guarded manner that says, don't come too close to me. Don't come too close. And it's right in your face. Leland does not have that at all, by the way. Leland has practically no guardedness about him at all. Next, please.
Playing the role of an advisor.
Playing the role of an advisor.
That's a good one.
Comment on it. You. You started.
Give my advice if people want it or don't. If they don't want it, I knock them over the head and give it to them.
What strain there is in being a compulsive teacher, a compulsive advisor. Watch yourself the next time you give advice to someone, and you wish you could get off that stage. All people, big-time preachers, psychiatrists, or whatever, who have audiences of any size at all, are quite unaware of how they wearily take the next patient, wearily give the next talk. Well, time to go to work again, right? That means it's compulsive. It means that you or I, if we do it, are getting something egotistical out of it, playing the role again. And it's very, very difficult to even detect this, to say nothing of dropping it. You should be able to advise others or not advise. And if you're advising people professionally in order to get money from it or ego enhancement from it, watch how difficult it is to say, I'm not going to do that anymore if I have to give up fame and fortune and go out and grow potatoes for a living. I would rather grow potatoes for a living because I'll be free of inner division. The inner division I had when I was a compulsive teacher or advisor. Which do you want? To be a free human being growing potatoes for a living, or to make $1 million a year and be divided and not see it but suffer from it anyway? Joan, tell me when it's the last one.
Okay. Doubt about my rightness.
Doubt about my rightness. Connect that with what was just said about being a compulsive advisor. Can you watch yourself giving advice to someone else and say, wow, I'm sure glad I don't have to follow my own advice. What's this little byplay here?
Certain of us have been known for giving work projects to other people that we can't do.
Go, Joan.
Do not understand my heavy spirit.
Do not understand my heavy spirit. All right. You're going through the day and all of a sudden you ask, what is my state right now? All right. Your state right now is that you're in a heavy spirit, but you can't understand why it's there. Just look at that. That you can't understand why you're heavy, why you're depressed. That is valuable self-knowledge for you to know simply that you do not understand it. Now, seeing that you do not understand it, you have blocked yourself from going into an artificial solution to it. I'll turn on the music. I'll run down to the store and shop. Because there's a certain little pleasure in wandering around the store and taking this or that. I won't go to the store this time. I'll stay home and suffer consciously over my heaviness, which will enable me to eventually understand it. Next.
Last one.
Last one.
A wish to be shocking.
A wish to be shocking. That connects somewhat with another one that we had. Making shocking statements to people, for example, using bad language. Right?
Yeah.
Let's catch ourselves right in the middle of trying to be shocking or trying to impress someone else, someone. The two could be together depending on the degree. Trying to shock someone or impress them. We are always trying to tell someone the kind of a man, the kind of a woman that we are, in order to keep up the picture we have of being this or that kind of person. What is my state right now? Look at it. Try to slow yourself down at the minute you see it. Slow down everything, and that will increase the clarity of your observation of the state, which with long years of hard work will free us from the state, because we'll be above its opposites. Its opposites. If I can see my phony cheerfulness, if I can see my phony cheerfulness and die to that, I can never get depressed again. My phony cheerfulness, for example, the phony cheerfulness of having an ally, someone to agree with me. Someone to agree, I know, someone to agree with my phoniness. If you have an ally who will agree with your trueness, hang on to him or her. Hang on to the class. Someone who will agree only with your trueness, with your effort to find out what is true and what is false. Can't you see the difference in that? In wanting an ally to agree with your falseness? For example, that excitement is what life is all about. Someone who agrees with that is your enemy of self-awakening, is he not? But someone who says, let's examine this excitement that we're always chasing after. Right up here. You don't have to go outside the house to chase excitement. You can go into it right here. Oh, I think I'll read about an island in the Pacific and daydream how nice it would be to live out there. You're chasing excitement. Let's take I'll go, then we'll take a break.
You said if we can end false cheerfulness,
Pardon?
if we end false cheerfulness, we'll end the depression?
Well, of course, because they're the same thing. Really? Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah.
When you are falsely cheerful, excited over the holiday that you're going to tomorrow, don't you know you're depressed? You have to be depressed because you're living in time instead of right now. Right?
Yeah.
Understand? Then take a break. We discussed something during the break which can be illustrated as follows. Suppose you live in a castle, nice pretty place, inside and outside. But down in the dungeon there's an evil spirit who lives down in the dungeon of this castle. And every day and every night this evil spirit comes upstairs up into the castle and torments you and beats you up and calls you names and tells you you're worthless and then tells you that you're a great king. He lies to you in every way possible and just torments you, and because you're very weak, although you live in the castle, the evil spirit comes up every day and torments you. So you have a visit one day from a friend. He lives outside the castle and he therefore understands what is going on in there. He can see things about it that you can't see. So the friend says, look, this is your castle, it belongs to you. Why do you tolerate that evil spirit coming up every day, beating you up, tormenting you, scolding you, making you miserable in general, making you scared? Why do you tolerate him coming up? Why don't you just boot him out? It's your castle. This belongs to you. I can't figure out why you permit him to stay down there where he can come up and assail you every day. And you say something like this, well, look, you understand, don't you, that he's been doing this for 30 years. This spirit down there has been coming up here tormenting me for 30 years. Haven't you ever heard of such a thing as loyalty? This is exactly what we do. We are loyal to our neurosis, and what a fantastic thing to be loyal to. And we feel guilty about trying to kick it out of the dungeon in our castle. Look, if you don't understand anything else, you understand this is your castle, and you handle it, you're in command of it, and you can kick anyone and anything out that you want. You don't understand yet. This is your castle. You think you have to share it with that devil down there. You don't kick him out. You start kicking him out, and watch the different tricks that he, the evil spirit, the devil, same thing, tries to play on you in order to maintain his residency down in the dungeon so he can keep coming up. As long as he lives there, he will keep coming up. He has no task on earth but to come up and torment you. That's his purpose in life, to torment you. You watch all the tricks. What? The sweet talk. You are disloyal. You leave the church, you are disloyal, and God may send you to hell. That one he'll always try to use. The threat. The disappearance for short periods of time, so you think, I guess I was pretty decisive and firm. I told him to get out, and get out within 24. This castle isn't big enough for the both of them. So he'll lie low for a couple days, right? Pretty soon you'll see the pitchfork coming up above the trap door. Watch the tricks. All right. I will tell you right now, and this is it. This settles it. The castle belongs to you and to you alone. It's yours to kick him out. It's your part. It's your duty. It's your power to kick him out. Through, for example, asking, what is my state right now? And if you see that evil spirit tormenting you right now, you tell him he has no place in your life, whatever. He has no power to come up anymore and torment you. All right, general discussion for a while. We have lots of time left. Benny.
Something came to me on the break. Several months ago, you disturbed me. He was saying that, talking plan, emotion, false crying, an emotional thing, either at seeing something sad on television or something, and then going into this thing, and I couldn't understand what you were getting at. All of a sudden, it hit me that if I were constantly in a state of self-observation, I could never let this happen to myself. And I realized the phoniness of it. I couldn't see it 7 months ago.
You'd catch the evil spirit when he first started to come out.
Yeah.
Your observation of him.
Enjoying this, going through this pitying state, you know.
You understand why we don't kick the spirit out of the dungeon. We enjoy his company. That's right. Because his nature is still part of our nature. There's still a correspondence there. That devil who comes up is me. And all the me I know up to this point.
I was going to say the New Testament phrase is, the prince of this world cometh and hath nothing in me. There's nothing left in me to correspond, and so
okay.
Can't have anything to do with that.
Okay. How about asking ourselves, what am I consenting to? What am I consenting to? You see the connection, don't you? What am I consenting to? You'll find that we consent to it, to repeat a previous point, is because we have a very, very peculiar fondness for being tormented. Now, how dumb can we get? A peculiar fondness for being tormented. And you understand why. All right, I will ask somebody. Why do we have a peculiar fondness for being tormented? And I will ask Larry, and then Rudy. Real fast and brisk, Larry.
Try to falsely prove to society how strong and tough I am.
Okay.
Well, you said it, Vernon. We have to be loyal to somebody. We have to be loyal to something.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Lorraine.
Keeps our eye in faith. We're at least a tormented person.
That's what I wanted to hear, yes. As a good answer. Yes. Joan.
It's a delicious false feeling of life.
Delicious false feeling of life, yes. How many do not understand that false feeling of life? Who does not understand it? All right, everybody understands it. Rudy, you want to say something?
Yes, this feeling of loyalty connected with our neurosis is almost similar to when we feel sorry for the downtrodden. We want to take communion too.
Downtrodden masses is the
Downtrodden
phrase.
masses,
Right, right. Linda.
This thing where you don't want to give up your suffering because it gives you a feeling of life, and you can see that same thing in a relationship that you see as bad, but you don't want to end it because that's all you have.
Correct.
That's very true.
Pardon?
That's very true.
It's scary to give it up, isn't it? Do it. Do it. Defy the fear. Write that down. Defy the fear. Defy the fear. And that defiance is a high form of defiance, is it not? Not in anger. At first it'll be in anger because you'll get all mixed up. We understand that. Defiance is nothing more than understanding. Understanding, capital U. But we have to start working against ourselves with this one little right part of us. It's one little right soldier, to illustrate again, one little true soldier against 10,000 enemy soldiers. So he has to start defying, but that is right. And one little right soldier can scare the life out of 10,000 enemy soldiers. Think about that. Isn't that encouraging? Because that one little is a part of God, so to speak. Yes.
It just occurred to me that what I have learned in this class is about fear, that I'm beginning to be able to detect what is fear. Am I making myself clear?
Detect what? You detect fear in yourself?
Yeah, but like, for instance, thinking you have to be friends with everybody or something could be basically a fear of being alone. Like, I'm learning now to know that what is fear.
Yeah.
Like before I had to be scared out of my wit to know, oh, I'm fearful, but this little teeny tiny one is fear.
Can you catch yourself in false friendliness with someone you meet in the supermarket?
Yes.
Huh? Nothing is more valuable than to be wheeling your cart of groceries down. You turn into the aisle, and it's too late to turn away, right? And here he or she comes down that aisle, and you wonder whether it's too late to pretend you don't see him. Defy the fear, and you will push your cart right toward that person, as we did this morning. Push your cart right toward them to see what happens. You being as conscious as you can. For example, resisting the impulse to go into, okay, I'm 10, 20 yards, 15 yards, zero is approaching, when I suddenly, see? Watch what happens instead of preparing something to happen. And you know, finally, when your carts cross, you can hear him sigh that he's past you. When you're past each other, you have something you never had before because you handled it with as much awareness as you could. Right? Now you have more. That's how we gain. That's how we get real gold. To evade it? No, that's cowardly. Don't you dare turn your cart away to the next aisle to miss him or her. Enter the battle. Consciously, deliberately, voluntarily.
A few weekends back, you said you hoped that we would have a crisis in our lives. But I've forgotten why. Connecting with this, sometimes when I have a small crisis where everything goes beautiful and suddenly something happens and everything looks sour. And then I want to be thankful for the crisis, but I don't know really why yet. I want to be thankful for the crisis, but I cannot do anything right with the crisis yet. Do you know what I mean? The crisis confuse me. I react, I fight him, I still fight the old way, And yet I say, well, Vernon said to be thankful for every crisis, but it doesn't work yet.
All right, let's cover both ladies at once. First of all, obviously you don't hope for a crisis. Why do you hope for anything? You're going to have them. Why even hope for them? See? Look, I'll tell you an error we make. This is very profound. Now listen. The error we make is thinking that I can and should do something with the crisis. All I can do is let the crisis destroy the idea that I can handle the crisis. See? Alan.
I can see something similar in allowing people to intimidate me. A man might walk up and say something or give me an intimidating look and tone of voice and so on. And I permit it because I'm helpless, so to speak. And then I say afterward, I say, well, now be alert because it might happen again, and if you're ready for it, perhaps you can gain something from it. And then a half an hour later, it might happen again, exactly the same way. And the second time is verifies that I'm powerless to.
Your nature is powerless. Your old nature is powerless. But you can die to that, can't you?
Well, I certainly hope so.
I assure you can.